Thank you so much for watching. I am wearing, of course, Nationals green just for you, Ross Goodell, right? No question about it. Of course, the National Senator in New South Wales, future Labor Senator if he wants to be. He's just putting services in for our...
I'm wearing Liberal Party blue. I thought it was International Dress Like a Young Liberal Day.
So cool. Have you got the gold buttons?
Yeah, that's right.
The chinos.
My chambray got a bit...
God love them. God love them. All right, now, so Ross, there's this emergency fuel czar. So apparently there's not a problem, but there is a national emergency. There's not a problem, but there's a new person in charge of the problem just in case there was a problem. But as best as I can work out about their backstory, the backstory is about trying to wean Australia off fossil fuels, not the logistics of how you move them around the country. Another great day from Albo's leadership.
It's another... Well, she's also... doing an inquiry in the Murray-Darling Basin at the same time. We're going for water and oil don't mix in my regard, but this is a very strong look at that. So she's been appointed to two things within a month of this government, and we need logistics. I mean, if the fuel is here like they really say, we just need to get it out to the people you're talking about. I've got a mate talking about Jono, if you're out there, in Milton, he always watches.
G'day, Jono.
Talking about a feedlot in near Wee Waa. And they were within a day of having to shoot their animals because under the animal cruelty, they had to feed them a certain amount.
Of course.
And they just saved it. You know, this is happening right round, but we hear no problem, no problem. So this is about getting the fuel to where it's needed. It's about all of those things that happen. He phoned today and he's going, you know, will we run out of fuel? He wants to know what to do with his stock. I'm saying I don't think we'll run out of fuel, but I think getting it out there is a different thing. Yeah. So this should have been someone in logistics, not someone about what fuel we should be using. It is the wrong call, and I think we'll pay for it.
Well, part of why people like, previously a Peter Cosgrove would be sent into something like, after the cyclone Isa, right, is that level of here's the problem, solve it, here's the problem, solve it, right? Again, the LinkedIn, as best as we saw, went only back to about 2022. Is there some secret time when she was a truckie before that?
Yeah, look, I don't know, to be honest. It seems to be a bit of a sort of choice from sort of central casting, you know, top bureaucrat 101. So we'll see, though. Maybe she is really good at this stuff and we just don't know. And if that turns out, that's fantastic. I would have probably got someone from outside, like a Tony Shepherd or someone like that, a sort of dynamo who gets in and sort of cracks some skulls. Sort of, you know, Jim Molan kind of figure, you know, who...
Even like a former premier.
Anyone who's going to completely disregard due process, basically. Anyone who's going to slash red tape, think outside the box. I'm quite serious. And so... but look, mate, he knows her obviously better than we do, so maybe she's...
All right, well, maybe it'll be just as fruitful as the Royal Commission that was called after Bondi that has nothing to do with Bondi, nothing to see. Decision made in New South Wales, again, under the cover of everyone looking the other way. Now, this was put out that there'll be no new coal mines in New South Wales in greenfield areas. What that actually means is no new coal mines in New South Wales, right? Because if there's a blade of grass on it, guess what? It would count as that. The trade-off is that the existing ones will be allowed to expand. Ross, what does this mean for the New South Wales economy, but more importantly, what we get out of existing coal mines in New South Wales?
It's more of the same. Look, I'm getting angry about where we are and what we are because Australia is a lucky country. We have so many resources. We have our iron ore, our coal, our gas. In South Australia, where the vote's on the weekend, there's enough shale oil in the middle there if we got to keep Australia self-reliant on oil. But we don't go after these things. We don't take enough of it for the country and for the Australians when we actually produce it. And so what we're doing, you know, we should be fighting through silk. We're on the bones of our ass. And this is not good enough.
Beautifully put.
It is.
Put it on a T-shirt.
It is not good enough that we have all this at our fingertips and we don't touch it.
Agree.
You know, you help the rest of the world, you help people when you are at your best, when you are wealthy, when you are doing well, when NDIS when foreign aid, we should feed the world, we should power the world, we should be a much richer country. But when we say no to these very simple things, we are being selfish because we are not doing our fair share. And I'm sorry, saying no more is basically saying, bad luck Australians, you aren't going to live the life you could live, and bad luck the rest of the world, you're going to pay more.
Well, also, you know, in terms of coal, right?
Yep.
Now, I understand it's political, this and that, but guess what Zelensky wanted from Australia? Coal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
China is saying ban on the exports of fuel to the rest of the world, right? Why? Because they want to make sure what they've got, they're able to make the most for ourselves, right? But because we tie one arm behind our back, pretending to be the solution to a global problem where 1% of the world's problem, these are the moments where people, I think, again, that great gulf between common sense and the people who nodded at each other at dinner parties.
Yeah, I think it's slightly different, to be honest, in this case. This is obviously done by the Minns Labor government. They have never shown the slightest preponderance to be anything less than clear-eyed and pragmatic when it comes to these things. They are not climate ideologues. They never have been.
Themselves with the revenue?
Because I think what they're looking at is, not what we need right now, which is a very real scenario, and things like, why don't we have the refining capacity we need, for example, to get that shale oil or to process crude and to be able to turn it into petrol here. And that is a really good question that we need to answer. When it comes to just exploring greenfield sites for possible coal seams, you're talking about projects that are not going to get off the ground for decades. So they are doing things like grandfathering coal-fired power. We do have coal mines that are not going to be shut down. They're going to continue. We're going to be selling our coal.
Your defence here is they could be worse. That's your defence. Not what they're doing right. They could be worse.
I think they're just looking and saying, do we really think, much as we may need coal now and in the years to come, are we really going to need it in 30 years when this gets up and running and suddenly we have a white elephant on our hands? That's what I reckon they're doing, because I don't think there's any ideological reason for them to do it.
Now, the attitude that this government has in around legal and illegal tobacco, right? So the reason that the illegal tobacco has exploded to the lengths that it has, as a result, the criminal gangs, the firebombs, all the rest of it, is because the taxation is too high, right? And illegal gangs turned around and worked out, well, guess what? Here's this chop that comes in from China where there's no tax whatsoever. What has the market done? Well, the market's turned around and gone, not going to pay the tax anymore, right? You say to the Treasurer, okay, a way of getting people away from the stuff that you theoretically want off the table is to start to drop the tax. I'm not dropping the tax at all. And then today we have a minister that's out and about saying maybe we should just get rid of tobacconists altogether. Now, I know that I am arguing the sort of 0.25% of the 1% here who's kind of talking on behalf of the legal tobacconists of Australia. Yeah. Not because, I pay full price, kids. Yeah. Believe me, right? Don't do it. Stupid thing to do for your health. But these are small businesses, right? Yep. The idea that, what a great idea. Let's get rid of another thing that Coles and Woolies can take over. Let's get rid of another thing that can just become what is, frankly, the same version of the same convenience store that's everywhere else, because of the criminal element that is only in existence because of, in part, well, not only, but it is in part because of government freaking policy here. Yeah,
I think there's a couple of things here. One is that prohibition just does not work. If people want something, they will get it. And if they want it in enough numbers and they've been used to having it, they will find it. Obviously, we learnt that during the prohibition period in America, but it's been proven just elsewhere, just in spades. Correct. And the other thing is, of course, if you make something, if something is too expensive, you end up just putting a target on your back, and you can just ask Kyle and Jackie O.
I'm pro Kyle.
I love Kyle. He's a mate of mine. I love him, but I just have to make that joke. But
what geniuses run that joint?
But if you, I know, bloody radio executives aren't they? Smart guys. Anyway, so
formal ones.
Anyway,
talk about it.
Let's leave our history. But again, if you make cigarettes prohibitively expensive without addressing the underlying reasons why people smoke or giving them an alternative, then they're just going to do other things. And their convenience stores have been warning about this. Saying people are going to come in and they used to buy a pack of cigs and a loaf of bread and the milk. If the cigs are too expensive, they're just going to buy the cigs and leave the milk and the loaf of bread behind. And this is what we're seeing. And of course, now the only way for convenience store, now the new business model, these small business things, is just to sell, vapes, correct, tobacco of the illegal or legal variety, and of course overpriced American candy and
all of
that weird stuff that they sell.
But what about this idea? I mean, the idea that the problem is the existence of the tobacconist because of the criminal element. This is the sort of logic that says, the way to bring down the road toll? Get rid of all the cars.
Exactly right. I go to the mischief rule when I look at stuff, and the tax on excise was to discourage smoking. It is no longer doing that because they found a way around it. So if that tax, that excise is no longer doing the reason it was done, it's time to bring it down. You've got to bring it down. I think you've got to halve it, is my personal thing. I think you've got to start there and have a review It's probably same on liquor because we're seeing increasing use of drugs. We're seeing antisocial behaviour. I think we've got to look at the excise things and look at why we put them in. They're not revenue raising. They're to discourage, and they're no longer doing that.
Well, this is the thing, right? Again, petrol through the roof on it. We won't do anything about the tax there. Illegal stuff around because the tax is so high. No, we couldn't possibly do anything there. Why? Because of the addiction to spending. See how it's all a loop right back to their management about what I was mentioning at the start of the show? Don't pay attention to what they say. It's what they do. Lads, let's get to a winner and loser of the week. Joe Hildebrand.
Look, I think in honour of what you just said, I'll declare the losers of the week Australia's long-suffering motorists. I am a frequent user of the Fuel Check app, and I just looked at it before and I just had to put it straight down again. The winners of the week, by contrast, are those who had the foresight to get an LPG conversion, because gas is still sitting there at around $1 and a bit a litre, and so the Falcon is going to be driving off into the distance.
The old taxi.
That's
with
right.
400,000 clicks on it.
That's right. All those Ford Rangers are going to be left on the side of the road.
All right, Ross.
Loser, I think it's Chris Bowen, the same reason. Looks like Baghdad Bob. There's no fuel problem here. There's no fuel problem here while the tanks are rolling behind him. Winner, clearly me. I think I've set a world record for being in and out of Shadow Cabinet twice in 10 weeks. I don't think anyone's done that in the world. I think that's...
Because you're too powerful, though. This is the thing. You're too powerful to be constrained. You need that sort of roving...
Well, look, I mean, mate, maybe it's a path to leadership. Look what happened with Matt, right? Up the back of the bus. Could be the slipstream. He could be doing a NASCAR-style, pass.
Shake and bake.
The closer you are to someone, the more they push you away.
It's like Thank you, everyone.